Hey, welcome to Hope Anchors. I'm Johnny,
I'm Sean.
and together we want to share the hope that anchors the very core of who we are to all that Jesus is.
In Hebrews 6:19 it reads, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure."
We are in a series going through the Gospel of Mark, and as we've been going through this on Sundays, we've called it finally some good news.
Good news.
If I've stopped watching news, I would much rather read it just so that I can get through it a little bit quicker. But man, sometimes reading it or watching it, it can be really depressing. And so I definitely wanted to bring out the fact that there's some really good news in this gospel that Mark has put together as a companion of the Apostle Peter. This is probably more than likely Peter's memoirs. It's a fast paced gospel that seems to focus more on the works of Jesus than the words of Jesus. And yet, what's fun about this chapter is that I feel like in there are four lives that are woven together in Mark chapter 5, and four very different challenges in each of their lives, and yet Jesus speaks a message to each of them. And I think one of the things that this says to me is that I think too many times we either think, "Oh, my pastor's too busy to hear me," or people would probably be bored to death of my story. I'm the only one who's struggling in this way. Oh, God's got to be too busy to be able to really hear my prayers. I think we get so enamored with numbers, with followers, with likes, with that kind of thing that we don't realize that though Jesus did in fact teach multitudes. I mean, we just came out of a chapter where it talked about him teaching a crowd of people along the lakeshore. But here, what it really says to me is that Jesus wants to touch individual lives. It's all about the one person and not about the thousands, and that there are very different messages that he offers to all four of them as we read a little bit more about their lives in this chapter.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting in chapter 5, which, we ended 4 where Jesus got done teaching, in the boat, and now he's got boat. They went across the lake, went through the storm, but they're in another area, another region, which is really not a very Jewish region at all. It's more
No.
Gentiles in that
Yep.
area, which just goes to show you right off the get-go, Jesus was not just for the Jewish people. Jesus was for everybody, and he is for everybody. And it's not just for the select few. It is for everybody that's willing to listen and come to him. And I think that's a very important understanding in this segment of chapter 5 is Jesus is going to go to a spot where they might have heard stories of this man that's done some miracles, but they really don't know who he is. They've never seen him, they've never been a part of him. And just like we've seen in the past, who's the first person that's going to recognize who Jesus is?
A demon.
Somebody filled with demons. And not just some, a lot.
Yeah, so Jesus and his disciples, they crossed the lake to the region of the Gerasenes, which this region also includes what we'll later see as the Decapolis, which is this collection of 10 city states where they operate individually, but there's a connection that they've got with each other. And it's kind of the center for Greek culture. You've got a lot of temples, you have a lot of theaters. It's just it's a very busy place for Greek culture. And here Jesus crosses over to the lake to the other side and goes there to reach one person.
Just
Uh,
one. I love that.
one.
Just one.
Who's your one?
Yep.
But and as they make their way to shore, this man with an impure spirit comes out of the tombs, and he lives in the tombs because nobody can bind him. Because of what he is possessed with, he is actually possessed with some kind of superhuman strength, where they tried to chain him hand and foot, but he would break free of those irons, and nobody was strong enough in order to subdue him. And night and day, he comes out of the tombs and into the hills, and he would cry out and cut himself. I know that, there are people that are in such emotional and mental anguish and pain that they can do harm to themselves.
Yep.
And this is exactly what's going on with this guy as well. So he sees Jesus from a distance. He runs and falls at his feet in front of him. Just kind of log that, because a lot of people in this chapter are going to be falling at the feet of Jesus. But he shouts at the top of his voice as if Jesus couldn't hear him. What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me. And I've often heard people say that when the devil reminds you of your past, just remind him of his future. Uh, the devil and those who work for him know what their future is, that their future is torture. It is not annihilation. And here, the demons are afraid of Jesus. I don't know if we think about that enough. That, already we're into Mark 5, and we're running into people who have been possessed by demons, and the demons are afraid of Jesus. So, in so many of the thriller movies or TV shows that anybody can watch, it's like, you're afraid of those, the demonic types and the people who are possessed, that kind of thing. But it's like, how I don't know if we truly realize how afraid Satan and those who work for him really are of Jesus, Son of the Most High God.
It's really interesting. At the end of chapter 4, when he calmed the seas, his he looks at his disciples and says, "Why are you afraid?"
Right.
And how many
I
times
don't know.
does
I
he
guess
tell
I
us?
think I would maybe freak out if.
Oh, yeah, but it's interesting. How many times has he said to us, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's just me. But yet a demon that is supposed to be terrifying everybody around is terrified of
Mhm.
God. And he never says, don't be afraid. It's almost like, yeah, you need to be afraid of me because I know what's going to happen. I know
Yeah.
how this ends. I love that idea. And it's just just how the demons knew exactly. He's in an area that nobody really knows who he is, but yet this guy, this demon possessed person falls to his knees and shouts by his name, Jesus, Son of the Most High God. It's like I know exactly who you are, but nobody else is. And it's like I, I don't know how your version reads, but it kind of takes me by surprise that as he says, don't torture me, for Jesus had already said to the spirit, come out of the man, you evil spirit.
Hmm.
So I wonder, as he says this, or as he's approaching, if Jesus has already said to the spirit, come out of the man, you evil spirit. So
Hmm.
now the spirit is already out of the man, and this is what the spirit is saying to God.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's because it just kind of reads that way. It's like, wow. And he replied, my name is Legion. Now,
Hmm.
some people will say that they use this word legion because it's in a direct correlation to the Roman soldiers, and it's very easy to go with that. But I think you said it on Tuesday or on Sunday, I'm sorry, that the legion is about what'd you say? It was about
3,000,
2,000,
6,000
3,000? Yeah.
soldiers.
So imagine I have a hard enough time dealing with the one person that talks to me in my head. Can you imagine having 2 to 3,000, 4,000
Nope.
possessing you, saying things in your head? You're not worthy, you're not this, you're not that. And I think that's so many times our own mental collapse of everything. And it's just it is sad. And sometimes we don't know where to turn to, we don't know what to do. And here this person has struggled with this for I don't know how many years, and he just sees Jesus getting out of the boat and he runs to him. He finally sees the way out of it. He finally sees it, and he said, just begs him to help him, throws himself to Jesus. And folks, that's I don't want to say it's that easy because it does take a lot to confess, to come through and to acknowledge. But Jesus is the answer to a
Yeah.
lot of our problems, and if not to all of them. I mean, uh, Julie had a sign up here that said, don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big God is."
Mhm.
And it's like here, this man's possessed with a lot of demons in him.
And what's crazy is here they request that he send them among the pigs, and he allows them to do that. And then once they enter into this group of 2,000 pigs, they rush down the steep bank into the lake and are drowned. Now, uh, I would imagine that a part of doing this is going to obviously have an effect on the people in that area, because I think if Jesus had just cast out these demons from this man, it would have been one thing. But I think because it really impacted the livelihood of a number of people in this region, oh no, my bacon,
Uh,
um,
Save my bacon, please.
save my bacon.
Because
Um,
they are in a region where they're not near Jerusalem, they're not around the other Jewish people where the pig was considered
Unclean.
unclean and
Yep.
everything else. No, they're in an area where the pig is something of value,
Yeah.
and here he just cast those demons to it, and off
Well, and
they
the
went.
problem with this situation is here you've got these people who are asking Jesus to leave because they're afraid of him.
Yep,
When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there dressed in his right mind, and they're afraid. And those who had seen it told the people, and they came out to Jesus and asked him to leave the region. And it's like they were more concerned about their livelihood than they were about this man being healed in
yes.
his right mind, no longer harming himself or others. And I think that's where we have to, look at our priorities. Are we more about our own creature comforts than we are about trying to help someone tackle their demons?
This is just the opposite of where Jesus was about the one and not the 99, and they're worried about the 99 and not the one.
Yeah.
you know, and and I love the fact that he tells him to go home to his family and tell them everything that the Lord has done. Because
Yeah.
we're in a different area. I looked at it, here he wants the news, he wants this to be spread out throughout the Gentiles of somebody that has done this miraculous thing for you. We're back home on the other side of the waters. It's like, no, no, hang on. They're not ready for this yet. It's almost like the Gentiles were ready for it, but the Jewish people were not,
Well, I mean, you just
you
even
know?
think of that about that with the Magi. The Magi they're not,
Yeah,
Jews, they're Gentiles,
yeah.
and yet they're the ones who are seeking Jesus. Whereas all of Jerusalem and all the leaders, the civic leaders and religious leaders, they're really anxious about what's taking place. But yeah, it's like people from outside of Judaism are much more open to Jesus than the one that they're supposedly, expecting to come. Yeah, so there are four people whose lives are kind of intertwined in this chapter. Four different challenges, four different things going on, and four different messages. In this first message, this guy, because Jesus has radically changed his life, he wants to be with them, and Jesus simply says, "No, you go back to your hometown and tell them everything the Lord has done for you." And he goes back to the Decapolis. He goes back to these 10 cities and becomes the first evangelist, and just simply telling them what Jesus had done for them. No Bible training, no background in Torah, um, no seminary. He doesn't have all the answers, but what he can tell them, and they're going to know it because they see it.
Yep.
They've got proof right in front of them that something extremely powerful happened.
Once again, that's that seed that's going to grow, and they have no idea how or why or what's going on. But yeah, and then I love the fact that you know what? Okay, you want me out of here? Let's go back. Get in the boat, guys. It's like,
Yeah,
didn't we just get here? We're already heading back.
we've reached the one, but that
Yeah.
one will probably reach more.
Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, I love that idea. So they got back in the boat and they head back to the other side. Um, it's like where the large crowd gathered around him on the shore. It's like, here we are again. All right, hey, Jesus is back.
And
Um,
here we go from a man, possessed by Satan to a man who's possessed by God, but is also um, he's got something going on in his own family that's driving him crazy. I mean, I think for any of you who have ever had anything going on with a child, whether it's a grandchild or your own, you know the fear and anxiety that can happen when you've got a child who's sick. And so this leader of the synagogue in Capernaum, he's like, you know what, I could care less what anybody else thinks about who I'm going to go to right now to ask for help. But he's going to go to Jesus. He falls at Jesus' feet, pleads earnestly with him. My little daughter is dying. Please come out and put your hands on her so that she'll be healed and live. And so Jesus starts the journey with his disciples and goes with him, but there's such a large crowd that's following him at that time, and there's one person. So it's kind of like as he's on this journey to go to Jairus's house, there's a woman in the crowd who herself has been um, uh, she's had a blood condition where she's tried everything, she's done everything, she's actually become broke because she's been paying doctor after doctor after doctor, and she's getting worse, and she's got no answers. And she thinks, you know what, if I just, she had heard about Jesus, and she thought maybe if I just come up from behind him and touch his cloak, then I'll be healed. And when she does that, immediately her bleeding stops. She feels in her body. Could you imagine how amazing that would be to realize that you no longer have what you once had? In that moment, it's like in an instant, she's free from her suffering. And in that moment, Jesus realizes that power has gone out of him. And he turns around in the crowd and asks, "Who touched my clothes?" And I don't know, I kind of see the humor in that. I just see his disciples going, "Lord, everybody's touching you. I don't understand. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Who touched me?" And as Jesus is looking around, the woman knows exactly what's happened. She falls at Jesus' feet. A lot of people falling at Jesus' feet in this chapter, trembling with fear. Some people, I mean, granted, this is a different fear than the man who's possessed by the demons, but then she tells us the whole truth. And he says, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." That's his message to her. Go in peace. It's almost like the message that he had with the man who had been paralyzed, and his friends lower him down through the roof. He says, "Son, your sins are forgiven." There's a sense here that though she came to him with this physical ailment that she's been dealing with for 12 years, that there is also a sense of, hey, I want you to be at peace also. I want something to happen in your spirit, in your mind, in your heart, deep down in who you are, so that you would have a sense of deep calmness right now because of what has happened. I want you to go in peace and be free.
and you know,
Live
Johnny,
live as a
that
free
that
person.
is so true of when you've been through your storms, when you go through stuff, and when you're coming out on the other side, the anxiety can go away and you are at peace. And it's like it is that's almost healing in itself. That you finally get that good night's sleep that you haven't had forever. And this woman's been dealing with this for 12 long years, doctor after doctor, no end in sight, no healing in sight. And she just wanted to touch him.
Mhm.
Didn't even need to touch his body, just needed to touch his garment,
Right.
and the boldness of her to fight the crowd, knowing that she's unclean in this area. I mean, we've talked about the guy that had to yell unclean, that Jesus heals of leprosy. Just to know that what she's going through, and now she gets to have that peace. And I love the fact he calls her daughter.
Hmm.
It wasn't woman, it wasn't, her name. It was simply daughter.
Hmm.
Your faith has made you well. Your suffering is over.
Yeah.
And and it kind of just everybody just stops. But yet Jairus's daughter is still, you know, at age 12, which is kind of interesting. Here, this woman's been suffering for 12 years, and this man's daughter is 12 years of age,
Hmm.
you know. But he's like, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. And then the leader's been told, your daughter is dead.
Yeah.
There's no use troubling the teacher now.
And
But
overhearing that, Jesus tells them, "Hey, don't be afraid, just
don't
believe." That's
don't
his
be afraid.
message. That's his message to the synagogue leader, this leader of this church. Listen, don't be afraid. Most often quoted command in scripture, just believe.
Yeah.
Continue to have confidence in me, trust in me. I know this isn't looking good. And so, he goes home with the synagogue leader. He just simply goes with Peter, James, and John, which we do see this happening over and over again, where there are some times where he's just only with Peter, James, and John. And there's quite a commotion at Jairus's house because they're in mourning now because she's died. And Jesus asked the question, "Why is all this? Why is there so much commotion and wailing? She's not dead; she's asleep." And all throughout Scripture, there are times where death is referred to as asleep. Death is not the final condition. Now, you have a choice as to where you're going to spend life after death. You have the choice to either live close to God or not be with Him. And you'll get to have whatever situation you live in right now. If you trust Him, believe in Him, want to have a close relationship with Him, if you've got that now, you get that then. But if you don't want
Yep.
that now, you won't have that then. But over and over, Scripture refers to death as sleeping, and that there will come a time. You simply read what Paul is reading about the resurrection, writing about the resurrection to the Corinthians and the Thessalonians, and when Jesus comes, he there will be an actual physical resurrection. When our buddy Doug passed away just a couple weeks ago, that there will be an actual physical resurrection of Doug, of Sean, of myself, Michelle, Julie. You got a relationship with him. There's going to be a resurrection just as much as there was a resurrection of Jesus. There will be a resurrection of you. And so here, he says she's not dead, which she is, but he says she's asleep. And so he puts them all out of the house, and it's just mom and dad, Peter, James, and John. And he takes his daughter by the hand and he says, Talitha cum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. And immediately she stood up and began to walk around. And she was 12 years old. She was born the same year that this woman started having her health issues. And on the same day, God's going to get glory 12 years later. Um, they were strictly, they were astonished by what had happened. But what's interesting is the first story, Jesus tells this man to go back to your hometown and tell him everything the Lord's done for you. In this one, he's like, don't
Don't.
tell anybody.
Yep. Strict orders. Do not tell anyone what had happened. And then he told them to give her something to eat. What's really interesting, Johnny, when he says, why all this commotion and weeping? You wonder, um, because to them, when you're dead, you're dead.
Mhm.
That's it. When you're dead, you're dead. Why all the commotion and weeping? And I feel like that's the way people are today that don't have that relationship with God, is they know that there's no connection. There's nothing them beyond what they see. And so, yeah, I'd be sad too. Um, uh, and the more I get into the word, the more I see what Paul's been writing and telling us, the more I get into what Jesus is saying in all of this. The child isn't dead. She's only asleep. We're not dead. We're not the end. It's just the
Mhm.
beginning of a long journey, of a long time with him. And folks, that's the promise. That's the promise that God has made from the beginning. That's the promise that Jesus is making. And I hope you take comfort in knowing that with God, with Jesus, this is not the end of all ends. It's Our time is here to do what we need to do to bring one more, whether it's going across the lake for that one person and then getting back in the boat and coming back home. I don't know. I mean, some people were like, you were only in Kenya for 5 days, 6 days. It's like, well, that's all I was supposed to be there for. I don't know. It's just what it was. I didn't need to go do other things. I just did what God told me to go do. And sometimes, folks, that's all it is. It's going to be a quick trip. You're going to touch that one person you needed to touch, and off you go. I think this is what Jesus is trying to tell us, even in this with the healing of the daughter. Sometimes it's just going to be to hold her hand and just to say, little girl, get up.
Yeah, there are
One
four
day that's
different
what's going to
people,
happen.
4 different challenges, 4 different messages, but maybe there's a message in there for you. Maybe you need to share in your home area what all that God has done in your own life. Maybe it's uh, to be at peace, to finally be at peace and to be free from your suffering. Maybe it's simply to believe and continue to have confidence in God, even when you're feeling fearful and anxious. Or maybe it's just simply get up. You've been down for too long.
Yep.
God has provided a way for you to be able to get back up again. We don't end every podcast just because, oh, this is a fun verse, but it means a lot to us because it speaks of the ability to never give up and quit. That endurance that he gives us when we're in relationship with him. Because above all else, if you spent some time listening to us, our desire in doing this is so that you won't give up. It,
Yep.
it is to continue to have hope. And so the Apostle Paul, in writing Romans 15:4, said, for everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope.
Yeah, and this is all just to give you something to anchor your hope to. I know we always say don't give up, keep looking up, and keep hope alive, but I'm going to say just keep having faith. Get up. Don't stay down.
Yeah.
God loves you. We do too. Keep your hope alive, everybody. Be blessed, and we'll see y'all in chapter 6.
Right.